Chris Luzniak,
And I'm Rob Byer,
and this is the Debate Math Podcast,
the show where we redefine what it means to debate in mathematics and education.
where multiple sides of ideas are explored, evidence matters, and we all grow and learn from hearing each other.
Because the world and our classrooms are not binary.
So let's dig into this month's debate. Well, you've probably heard it before, maybe from a teacher, a colleague, a speaker at a conference, or even yourself. Everyone is a math person.
You know, it's become kind of a rallying cry in math education, a statement of belief. But is it really true? Or are we just overdoing it?
It came from a place of wanting to counter the narrative that we often hear from students saying, I'm just not a math person or I'm just not good at math. But is everyone really a math person? And is it okay to not be into math?
What are the consequences, good or bad, of telling students that everyone is a math person? We wanted to explore this in more detail with our latest hot seat debate. Is everyone really a math person?
Here to discuss the question, is everyone really a math person? We have two wonderful educators. First up, we have a former high school math teacher who taught in both Chicago and San Diego, once a high school math specialist for Chicago Public Schools and curriculum writer at Desmos and later Amplify Classroom. He is currently director of community partnerships for the Math Happens Foundation. And you may have seen some of his recent viral Instagram series, including Approximately Equal and Vehicle Chat. It was totally wild and unexpected, in his words. It's Chris. No, hi, Chris.
Hello, great to be here.
Glad to have you here. Can you tell our listeners where you are and what your current role is and more about yourself?
Yeah, it's great to be on the podcast. Huge fan. Kept a little surprised it's taken this long to get me on, to be honest. No, but I'm out here in San Diego. I moved out back here where I was originally from just around 7 years ago, and I work as the director of community partnerships for Math Happens. We're a little nonprofit based out of Austin, Texas, but we do work around the country, and all of it is informal education. So we're in like museums, libraries, those sorts of places with really hands-on fun math activities for the community. And yeah, it's really strange because these days I talk to folks who work at museums and science centers more than I talk to fellow math educators. So I'm trying to go out there and do the work of trying to redefine what math is and what it means to engage the public with math.
Well, that sounds super fun. And now the question we ask all of our guests, when did math first become controversial to you?
Great question. The when my answer to that, I was thinking a lot about it is, and I feel, I've listened to many episodes, and so there's a similar arc I feel like I have experienced as some of your other guests of being very good at math, being very fast at math really is what that meant. And then I got to college and, I've actually wanted to be a math teacher for quite some time. So fortunately, we had this major that was like secondary education with, mathematics. So I had to take a certain number of math classes to kind of, get the math stamp of approval. And since I knew I was going to teach middle school, high school, there was a class called geometry. I'm like, oh, this is perfect because like I know geometry, but like maybe I should take this class to really learn geometry. And when I tell you that I have just blacked out that class, like I do not recall a single thing from that class other than being so confused about everything. And the real controversy there was like day one, I'm just in the class like, this must be the wrong class because I know geometry and I don't understand a word of what's being said. And then someone raised their hand and gave the right answer. And I was like, oh no, I'm in big trouble here. And so I somehow passed that class. I think grade inflation is to thank there. But yeah, I don't know. I really haven't taught much high school geometry as a result. Maybe I'm a little scarred by that experience in college. So
Wonderful. Thank you.
Here to argue along with him is a returning guest. Known as the Lady Gaga of math education, she is the founder and director of the Math Guru, a super cool math and science tutoring studio. She's the host of the Math Therapy podcast, author of the Math Hacks Scholastic book series, as well as the best-selling book Math Therapy. And she is a lead singer for the rock band Good Night Sunrise. Check out their new song Overview on Spotify. Also, she failed grade 11 math twice, which is the best thing that has ever happened to her. It is Vanessa Vicario. Welcome back, Vanessa.
Oh my God. Hello. Wow. Thank you for having me. Thank you for promoting our new single. Thanks for doing the people's work.
The people's work is promoting your new single. I love it.
Well, why are
Um,
we really here? Um, you're gonna ask me to talk about myself, and I'm just gonna say that I feel like you've summed it all up. Math pun intended. I don't know what else to really say. I think you've covered it all. Like I think we just what else is there to know?
well, I do want to know, when did math first become controversial to you? And it could be something you said before.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the good news. I actually have no clue what I said before. So, and also, I feel like there are so many answers I could give to that question because there are so many ways in which math continues to become more and more controversial, I find, with every passing day. But I will say something that occurred to me while I was listening to Chris tell his incredible intro, and I was like panicking, being like, what am I going to say? And I thought back to one of the earliest moments when math became controversial for me, which was, I believe, when I found out that you could, in fact, divide by zero. Like, do you know what I mean? It was like one of those things of like, you can't divide by zero. Oh, but all of a sudden in calculus, you can do this whole limit thing and like, la, 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 la. And I was like, excuse me, are we allowed to swear? Are we swearing on this podcast? Okay, so I was like, what the fuck? Okay, you're telling me that you've been lying to me my entire life. You just like made up this convenient rule because you were like, oh, we're just gonna like tell the kids you can't divide by zero because it's too like impractical for them right now to understand this thing. And then later like lie and change the whole thing. And I was like, like we like to position math as this like truth, but like in that truth, in lies so many lies that we tell people along the way. And I feel that that is a little controversial. I feel a little weird about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and with that, let's get into the debate.
We will begin with opening statements from our speakers. And per a rock, paper, scissors off, it's going to be Chris No. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Also, I just think it's rock, paper, scissors. I'm not sure if it's a rock, paper, scissors off, but we'll save that for another episode of Debate Math. Okay, so the statement is everyone really a math person? Emphasis added is mine. And let's talk about the statement itself. There's a definition of math person. I'll put that in quotes to center that as the statement. There's a definition of math person where the answer is yes. The definition of math person there is broad. It's inclusive. I hope we get to dig into what that means in this episode. And I personally like it. I'll just lay my cards out on the table. But as a result, it sometimes can be thought of as not saying all that much. Like what defines a math person is really similar to what it means to be a human or to be conscious. And so it doesn't really add too much to layer onto someone's identity of who they are. There's, of course, a more specific and narrow version of math person. We could think about someone up at a whiteboard. They're typically, old white men, probably dead already. And that definition of math person can feel really exclusive. And I think the reason we're here to talk about it is actually not so much about the truth of the statement itself. I mean, I'd love to discuss that, but sort of like, why do we find ourselves saying it? And I think it's because we have sometimes people who think of mathematicians and people who do math as looking a certain way, and they don't feel included as a part of that community. And so we say that statement to try and include other folks. And what I really want to debate today is the purpose of saying you are a math person or saying everybody is a math person. And to that, my claim is that it is not an effective outreach tool. So let's just really quickly have a version of a conversation that we've probably all had in some capacity. I'm at a party, very cool, and people go, "Oh, what do you do?" And I say, "Oh, I'm a math teacher." And they say, "Oh, I'm not good at math. I'm not really a math person." And there's like a dramatic pause. And then the spotlight turns on, the record scratches. And I say, no, you are a math person. And they cry and they're like, yes, this is all I needed to hear. Um, no, that's not what happens. And I don't say that personally, but I think we've all probably heard a version of that story as like a way a conversation could go when people tell you that they don't like math. And I have to be honest, I get a similar feeling of like what that is doing as when I look up at a billboard and I see the message, Jesus loves you, or something like that. Um, Whoever is paying for that billboard certainly believes that message to be true. Like that's something that they're putting their dollars behind to tell other people who maybe don't believe that. Um, and maybe if you're a fellow Christian and you look at that and you're having a rough day, you see that and you're like, oh my gosh, like that's an encouraging message. It's nice to hear that again. But if you don't belong as a part of that community, and I'm not saying like don't belong like you have yet to belong, but you're just like, that's not me. I actually don't know what good or what purpose that does in terms of its like outreach, in terms of having you think about math or, in that case, your faith in a different way. So really quick, just to get back to the conversation, like probably the four of us and a lot of your listeners here don't just say like, okay, you are a math person and the conversation ends there. There's probably a lot of really, really good follow-up conversation that happens after someone tells you they're not a math person. And what I want to kind of debate and talk about today is why not just say that stuff? Like, why not get into all of the, oh, so tell me about your experiences in math. Oh, so what do you think it means to, be good at math? All of those conversations, I think we could center at the beginning rather than having this statement as a thing we rally around and to spark discussion when I think a lot of the times it will shut doors like right off the bat.
All right. And let's pass it over to Vanessa to continue the opening statement.
Wow. We're coming in really hot already. I'm really into it. And you've really set me up nicely. So thank you so much. I'm going to start by confessing that had this episode been recorded maybe even a month ago, I would have changed my answer because I used to be firmly in the like everyone is a math person camp. Like I personally feel I helped popularize that sentence, like I put it on slides, I put it on merch, I literally said it on stages. And then I realized, as Chris mentioned, that it is the phrase itself that is the problem. Because the thing is that math person is not a neutral term. And it's not actually the encouraging phrase we think it is. Like it comes preloaded with an image. Like it's kind of like a casting call, right? Like the role has already been written. It's Matt Damon from Good Will Hunting. It's that guy from A Beautiful Mind that like had no friends and couldn't hold his relationship together. It's this fast, like logical, certain person. Probably enjoyed long division a bit too much in grade 4, like didn't need help, didn't feel embarrassed, certainly never cried over fractions. Like we know who that person is. So when a student who has struggled for years hears you are a math person, they're not like comforted, they're more confused because they already know what a math person is and it's not them. So we think we're like removing this hierarchy, but we're actually reinforcing it because we're saying like the goal is to eventually join this club. But why is there a club, right? Like no one ever says, oh, everyone's a reading person, or like, I don't know, everyone's a staircase person before they like walk up the stairs, right? Like math is the only subject where participation requires like adopting an identity that is not yours. Like you've got to give up something and fit into this other thing. There's a very clear like set of rules of what you have to do in order to do math. But the thing is, the outcome we actually want has nothing to do with an identity. We just want people, like students, anyone, to think, like to persist, to not panic when they don't instantly know what to do. We want people to feel like if they chose to, like if they wanted to, they would be capable of doing and even liking math. But that doesn't require becoming a math person. That just like requires being a person who's allowed to do math in their own way on their own terms. So since the year of the snake ends today, on the date we are recording this podcast, I've decided that I am channeling all the snake vibes, and I think I am going to shed the term math person because I'm over it. And I think the term itself sets up a false dichotomy that continues to divide people. And I think we can all agree the last thing we need right now is more divisiveness. So if you're over it too, I invite you to join the movement. Chris and I are going to convince you. And to paraphrase Mean Girls, aka the best math movie of all time, let's stop trying to make math person happen.
Okay, thank you. You're both coming in hot here. I'm going to get right into questions here. I have a bunch of things I want to ask. My first question is really, can we ever use the word math person? Like I see the shirts like you're a person, you do math, kind of like you guys were alluding to, like it's like the lowest common denominator. Like, are you human, right? But can we not then use that phrase? Like, isn't there something behind it that could be empowering or building confidence for some students?
Yeah. The last thing I want anyone listening to this conversation or feeling about what I'm saying is like, you should feel bad about saying to your students, to your friends, to strangers, you are a math person, right? Like, I do not think it is a negative thing. I think my definition of math person, I actually think it's true, that everyone is a math person. But and that one case where I actually feel extremely like, hey, this is different than other cases is when we're talking about like folks who are historically marginalized and kept out of these spaces. There's times where that phrase can be really powerful of like, wow, you maybe have never considered that I am seeing you like this, but I am seeing you like this, and I'd love for you to see it like yourself. Um, so I do. There's so many times where I think, as a teacher, it's something that I told my kids, but I just don't think. I think Vanessa, like in her opening statement, I'm really hearing this like call for us to unpack what that term means and not assume that everyone that is hearing it is hearing what we are meaning by it. And so often when it's on a sticker or when it's on a t-shirt, it's not doing that work. It's like just kind of telling people what they are and goodbye, like I think we should not say it, just dig a little deeper into what do we mean by what we're saying and how can we communicate that.
I think this is a. Can I tap in here?
Yeah, Vanessa, go ahead. I was gonna say I maybe I'm a stare person according to what you're saying. So
I love, first of all, absolutely echoing what Chris said. In no way am I like, if you're using it, you're damaging kids. Like, no, not at all. Like, first of all, I just love giving a hot take. And also, I'm like, let's do something different. But really, the crux of this is actually mathematics, which is when we use terms in mathematics, we define them so that we all have the same definition of them. And that is what is happening when we say math person. We're not defining it. We are just assuming that the recipient has the same definition as we do. And this is problematic, by the way, in most communication that like happens in the world. But I have found that actually one of the most powerful things you can do if a student or a person in front of you is claiming not to be a math person, instead of responding with you are a math person, the best thing ever is that rich moment when you can say, what does being a math person mean to you? Right? And then like, so Chris Lesniak, to answer your question, should we never use the term? No, I actually think in a way it can be used as this point of connection to be like, wait a second, what are you meaning? Because here's what I mean, and what is the way you're meaning exclude you? Like, how does the way you're defining it exclude you? Like, it's a really rich moment. So, like, yes, let's use it, but exactly what Chris No said. It's like we can't just say it and assume that the words coming out. It's like our intention is matching the impact because the recipient just might have a different definition, and they might be like, but I don't want to be that thing, right? So. Yeah, I think it's in the unpacking and in the asking instead of telling. And if we do that, then the term math person can be this wonderful moment where we get to unpack everything.
yeah, so you're talking about unpacking, and Chris, you talked about like the follow-on questions like after that. And so can you both, Vanessa, you can start. Can you both share more? Like, so let's say someone says to you, I'm not a math person, right? And so we need to maybe unpack the definition, but like what else can we say? What would you love to hear maybe educators or parents say to people who have that sentence come out of their mouth or have that attitude about math?
This is like my favorite moment, and one of like my number one teacher moves is simply to ask the question like, wait, what does the term math person mean to you? Like, what is a math person? That's it. That's all you have to do. And I like that because it doesn't require you as the asker. Like, let's say a parent is listening or someone's listening right now who's like really uncomfortable around math themselves. And they're like, how do I convince someone they're, good at math when I feel shitty about math? This is actually just like literally, okay, the person says, I'm not a math person. And you respond with, what is a math person? The end. And like, see what happens. Right? Because then, too, I feel like this is my favorite thing. It's like, as soon as you ask that question, you're going to start hearing from the recipient these things that they feel they're not. You're going to hear the areas where they feel they don't belong. That gives you a window into what their math trauma might be, where they might have been excluded, what might have given them that impression. And now you have like, because the point is not to catch them in a gotcha moment. You're not trying to be like, what? Like, hold on. Like, which is, I do this all the time. I'll be like, really? You don't do math? Like, you said you liked baking. Like, gotcha. Like, no, like, that's not the point, right? The point is for them to start wondering themselves, like, like, is this definition I'm carrying helping or hindering me?
Yeah, and man, totally. Like that is like a question, the question I feel like should be like top of mind. I think some of that snake shedding, it could be like leading, trying to have that rise to the top. If they're bad at math, I'd be like, yeah, you're probably not a math person, and if they, no, I'm just joking. I would definitely ask follow-up questions. And I actually am just so in love with what Vanessa said, but and I just to play that out a little bit more, I think it would be like, oh, what do you think a math person is? And let's say they say something like, well, I was never good at math in school, or I failed, a class. And like it can diverge a lot of ways, but I think that is how unique that statement, it speaks to how unique folks' experiences and why they feel like they're not a math person. Like that could just be so different. And one message to rule them all here to try and catch all of those is a really, really, really tricky thing. And so a question rather than an identity statement is doing completely different work. Like drawing a thing, having them draw in their minds what math person means and be like, no, like put yourself in there is different than like, let's talk about what your understanding of that is and we'll start there. So I think fundamentally question asking is different than identity statements.
So it's interesting because we've talked a lot about definition, which is something that on the podcast we do a lot of. But then, like, Chris, no, you just talked about having like an identity statement. And there's something to like like for math identity and building math identity at a young age and for historically marginalized students. So why aren't we okay, or maybe we are okay, maybe I misheard, but like, why aren't we okay with just like saying like, hey, you are a math person to everybody? Like, why does it need to go deeper than that?
So some of where that identity language I think is really well researched and I stand behind it for sure is like in the true dimensions. And I think it's Alan Schoenfeld's work. And one of the domains of like a really robust classroom is identity, ownership, authorship, or like some combination of those words. Sorry if I'm butchering it. And so I think the crux of that domain is sort of like students see themselves as capable thinkers and doers of mathematics. And I used to, still might get down every now and then. I used to breakdance, b-boy. And I kind of was learning how to breakdance around the time where like the internet and like YouTube was like getting popular. And so there were a lot of people learning how to breakdance or watching a lot of breakdance videos and in the comments, oh, that's good, that's bad, that's good, that's bad. And there was this big debate within the b-boy community around like this new term got developed, which is e-boy. Like you're not doing the dancing, you're not at the event. Like you can critique all you want, but we're not actually interested in like you're not a part of this like dance scene, this like real authentic culture. And I think tying it back to the math classroom a little bit, when you are doing mathematics, like when you're in a class and like kids are, legitimately thinking, legitimately doing mathematics, like I almost think you don't even need to say you are a math person. Like they're walking away with an experience that it's more powerful than an identity statement. It's a action that they have done that lets them, to Vanessa's point about asking a question, after a really good problem or something, or at the end of the year, at the end of the semester, asking like, what did you do today? Like what did we do that made today like really, you know, exciting or unique? Or they're just ways of reflecting on what you are actually doing that can connect to being a math person rather than the statement coming first. Yeah, I just think the phrase I'm thinking of is show and prove, which is really important in hip hop. It's like you got to be able to do it, and that's hard work. It's not easy.
Mm.
Um,
So,
I want to throw, I love everything you just said. Also, breakdancing, really, because video or it didn't happen. Just saying. The fans want to know. Show and prove, Chris. Show and prove. So I would say another, I think something we also have to think about is the term math person has become rife and loaded with stereotypes. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean a person who does math. And most kids know that. And most adults know that. So I think we're in a bit of a bind where we have this term where again, like, we want it to mean one thing, but it it has taken on a life of its own due to the way it's been used, the way mathematicians have been stereotyped, the way math doers have been excluded. It has just gotten to this point where math person no longer means someone who's capable of math. It means all of these things, like I mentioned in my opening statement, right? I think that another thing we have to really think about is because my thesis work is on gender and math identity. Like that's how I started everything, and it really is about how under participation by girls often happens because they reject the identity of being a mathematician. They don't want to sacrifice their femininity and their identity in order to take on this other identity. And so I think we have to be really careful because, again, this is an intent versus impact situation where some people might reject the notion of math person. They might be like, yeah, I'm good at math, but I do not want to be a math person. You telling me I'm a math person is actually giving me the ick. And so I think we do have to be a bit wary when we're talking about terms that have taken on so much due to the way they have been used culturally and socially for so long.
so like this term math person, that we keep saying like, okay, it gives you the ick, but we know that internally, like teachers are thinking it, people are thinking it, community members are thinking it. So I guess whether it's mathematics or math ed, like, is there a minimum threshold of mathematical competence that's required to claim this label? Or is this one of those things where we're not going to gauge this? It's more about what you said, Chris. No.
The idea of a threshold that someone has to pass to get this identity doesn't sit well with me. It, especially if it's like, here's my threshold, I'm the teacher, or like whatever situation you find yourself in where you get to create that threshold. So that's not what that's not what I believe. I I think another model, I'm trying to think of like a parallel or something, but I can't really think of it on my feet here, is a thing that people can do, can label themselves as when they feel ready. And they can do it on the spectrum, right? Like it doesn't have to mean like, okay, I'm ready, like I'm crossing over this big thing and I am a math person now, or I'm not, but like I'm on a journey. There, I think there's two, I
What
forget.
about like musician? I'm just gonna tap myself in.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
well, what
yeah.
about like when you're ready to be like, oh, I'm a musician now?
Mm.
Like you've been playing music for a while, like tinkering or whatever it is, and is that what you're kind of talking about? Like, or being like, oh, I'm an artist. Like now I can call myself an artist.
Yeah, and at what
Yeah.
point is that even? It's like,
Wait,
so
wait,
like
I don't
what
know. Yeah,
Vanessa said, like Vanessa saying, like whether it's an artist or a musician, like, and I think about like Paul Lockhart,
Hmm.
the Mathematician's Lament, like
Hmm.
like he's talking about this artist or with this, like music even. So
Hmm.
at what point do students even, like, not even just like a teacher, but like, because like it's a cultural thing at this point. It's like a math cultural thing. We're talking about being a math person. So how do we shift that mindset? How does, like, is there a minimum threshold, or is that like, no, it's like a case by case? Like, how does that work?
but also, Chris, is that what you meant? Like, sorry, I just was trying to help you out with a metaphor. Like, is that what you're meaning? Or not? Are we
So
all?
something about the musician thing feels like it's this question of like when am I a professional? This, and it's like, oh, do I like make money by doing it or
But
like,
isn't that the same with mathematician? I feel like that's been the debate for so
oh yeah,
long, is
yeah,
right?
like are you a professor?
Yeah,
Or
like when can you call yourself a mathematician? And then we're like, so
Mhm.
we need to start saying math person or mather because right? Like I feel like it almost is like,
Oh,
why
interesting.
does musician mean like I am a musician professionally, but I don't make any money? Like, does that make me
hmm
a music? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I wonder if
hmm
it is actually kind of similar.
hmm
So let me rephrase and kind of like bring it down. Oftentimes it's kids. Okay, let's
hmm
talk about kids specific right now.
hmm
They walk into a classroom. It could be a third grade classroom, and as soon as they walk in, and Vanessa, going back to like what your work does a lot, there's something that happened K through two prior to third grade, and they have some trauma, right? So they're walking in thinking of one thing. Okay, now we have that kid in front of us. We're working with them in math. How do we get them to get out of that mindset of I'm not a math person to a math person? Is there a minimum threshold for them, or is this like how do we shift that mindset?
Well, because I feel like we've gotten a bit off the topic a bit because I feel Rob, and tell me if you're wrong. I feel what Rob you're trying to say is how do we is there a minimal threshold for them to be able to identify as being capable of doing math? Right? Like
A math
so
person, not capable of doing
no,
math.
but
The math person, like that label. We're talking the label and like where they can put the label.
yeah,
Not that they're capable. Because if
but
I
this
if
is
I
why I'm
I'm capable of doing music, I'm not a musician.
Yeah, but this is why I'm arguing against the label because I feel like who gets to define what the label means? Like that's why I have a problem with it. And like I like again, so okay, let's imagine a scenario where this could work. You walk into a classroom and the teacher is like, "Hey class, I just want everyone to know that my definition of a math person is that you are capable of adding one plus one. Or my definition of a math person is you're a person that just tries to show up mathematically. Like when we're doing math, you just show up. Then you can kind of use the term and be like, okay, so now over to you, kids. Like, do you fit that definition? But if we leave kids to define the term on their own, we're setting them all up for failure because they're going to define that term by the cultural norm and right like the way it's been used, which is a pejoratively by a wide percentage of the population, especially in schools. Like it's not even necessarily a term you want to live up to. Or B, with all these standards. Or C, like Chris No brought up, with like an image with like like exclusion. So I just don't think that's the goal to be like, at what point can someone identify with being a math person? Because again, we're setting ourselves up for a bit of a disaster here, I think, if that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in, and I think like the hairiest this is gonna get is like the more we really associate it with like a true identity statement, which is like so complex, right? At what point in any of our existence will we be able to so squarely say like I am this and I am that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I am Korean. I was born that way. And like there is a way to that which I think that's how people are using the term math person, that it is intrinsic. It is like something you are born with. There is no math gene, there's no math person and not a math person. And so like all of those things I agree with, but man, like identity work for like someone to tell me if I'm struggling, if I have a C in your class, I'm a student, and you're like, no, you are a math person. It's like, dude, I have a C. Like I am not a math person. And there's just too much work that phrase is going to try and do, I think, and like yeah, that phrase cannot do the lifting. It cannot save children who don't feel like math people from to into being math people. And I don't even think that's our goal. So this weird label of like internally, can you apply that label to yourself? And to the degree that you can say something true about yourself today that you will be true for the rest of your life, like it might feel like you have a phase of your life where you're a math person, but maybe not. Maybe the next week you like other things instead, and that's fine. Like that we should be okay with people flowing in and out of and experimenting and trying on hats with like who they are.
This, I want to bring up one other thing just so we don't forget. The other problem with math person is it is set up as a binary. How many times do you hear people say, "Oh, I'm not really a math person, I'm more of a reading person. Oh, I'm not a math person, I'm a creative." So then the problem is when we students adopt this identity, they implicitly have to let go of another one. They have to choose. So that's the other problem with the term is like we've set it up in a dichotomy, which is like causes so many issues. So it almost feels, Rob, like you're asking for a reclaim. Like, can we redefine this term and then get people to, and it's like, I think Chris, Noah, and I are kind of saying, like, if you want to ask the questions and do the unpack and blah, 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 like, okay, like that's an option. But I really like what Chris is saying about the identity statement and about just the idea that words have power, but they're not everything. So the goal isn't for someone to be like, okay, I can finally label myself a math person. I think all of us who use that term very well meaningly and like by all means continue doing it, but like do some of the unpack work. I think we all have a much bigger intention behind that term. We're wanting students to feel like they belong. We're wanting them to engage. We're wanting them to see themselves as a part of math culture. We're wanting them to bring their entire identity in and say, yes, you as you are, you're a math person because no matter who you are, you're a math person. I get what we're doing, but then what we're doing accidentally is using this very limiting label to include them. And like in doing so, it is a bit exclusive. Like it just can't help it.
I want to kind of take a opposite view of that. Like I'm thinking like if someone's listening to this and they're like, I agree with them. Okay, so I'm gonna not say everyone's a math person. Then are we just kind of sending subtle messages that we give up on some kids? Like, are they not gonna hear these positive messages about them being good at math? And so are we actually then doing harm in a different way? Like, is this a lose-lose situation here?
Yeah, well, if they're bad at math, I'd be like, yeah. Well, I think mainstream cultural work of like changing mainstream perceptions and cultural work, like I'm talking about this like I'm some kind of expert on it, and I'm not. But it's like has to be rooted, I think, in doing. What's sorry, folks. I know it's easy to print a sticker and to like tell people they're a math person, and to say everyone in fact is a math person, and that what is way harder is going to be like completely reassembling your pedagogy to have kids actually be doing and thinking mathematically and like detracking your school and getting everyone, to learn math together and see. Like there's some hard work that we can do that will accomplish that goal. I think we should not rely on the leading identity statement to then like have this trickle down effect where that gets all the results you want. Like all of that work is what we should be focusing on. I think that's an extremely powerful form of outreach. With my current job, like we show up to museums, every museum is very skeptical that a 4 hour long math play table is going to be fun. And we see folks like staying there for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And the museum staff is always commenting like, on average, like kids spend around 5 minutes. It's called dwell time in the museum world, like just bopping from exhibit to exhibit, right? But they'll stay at this math table and they'll just like play with, tiles and things like that. And I'm like, we really don't need to like on their way out be like, hey, you're a math person. Like I think they're gonna talk about it at the dinner table. And I think that's the work that if we do more of and connects to what they're doing in school and everything like that, I think that is how I don't think it's a lose-lose. I think focusing on other things is a powerful way of doing math outreach.
I also think I will say I think there's a world where like Lady Gaga comes out with a new song called like Born a Math Person, and that actually that could be the thing. And right? Like yeah, like there we go. Like I'm all for a marketing campaign where like some celebrity redefines math in like across the globe and like boom bam done. Like being a math person, it's like born this way. Like I'm a math person, whoever you are, you do math. Like great. That would be awesome. right? Like, just so everyone knows who's listening, Chris No is shaking his head vigorously right now, like up and down, nodding. He's nodding. He's like in agreement with me here. He's he's break dancing to this song that we're writing about being a math person. No, but for real, I do. But I think it's like that's the thing. We would have to like really do a little like year of the snake on the math person and like really change the term so that it means what we're all trying to say. Because right now it just doesn't mean that to most people.
Hey, and on that note, that concludes our questioning round.
Hi, listeners. Before we get into final arguments, we want to pause and have you ponder for a moment. What did the guest just say? And what stood out for you?
Whatever is on your mind, we want to hear it.
Did you know you could text us your thoughts?
Just head to the show notes for this episode and look for the text us link. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
And with that, let's hear our closing statements.
All right. We'll now end by giving this pair a few minutes to make their final arguments to you. And I think, Vanessa, you're going to start us off.
Guys, if you know me, you've heard me say a lot of shit. You know, I love to rant. I love hot takes. I am a Gemini, so that means I change my mind all the time. I come in really, really strong, and the next thing I know, I'm completely on the other side. And it is a blessing and a curse that I can always see both sides to every single story, pretty much always. And so what I want to say is I've gone really hard here. It's my new thing that I've suddenly decided I'm no longer going to say math person, but I really might change my mind by the time the episode is published. And all that to say, I think all I'm really actually feeling passionate about is the idea that we should just be, as always, and I know every single person listening is, really thoughtful about the words we use, because our words have power. Whether it's saying something like, you know, this question is really, really hard and, you know, inadvertently scaring a bunch of kids, or this question is really, really easy and making some people feel shitty because they don't think it's easy. We always want to be careful with the words we use, and math person is just another set of two words that I would like us to be thoughtful about. So whether you use it or not, you are a math person. No, I'm kidding. Just kidding. Whether you use it or not is not actually the point. I think the point is for us to think about what we use, make sure that our intention when using terms match the impact they're having, and any chance we can get to ask a question about somebody's relationship with math as opposed to telling them what we believe their relationship should be. So that's the end of my story. And honestly, by the time this comes out, DM me on Instagram to find out if I am using the term math person or not.
Yes, ditto to so much of what Vanessa said. Some stuff I'd love to add is two apologies. One, don't if you feel bad about saying I'm not a math person, I want to apologize. So you shouldn't feel bad about saying everyone's a math person. The second thing is we never defined math person, and we need to apologize for that. And I don't think we will define math person. Check the show notes. You guys, Chris and Rob, you can add the perfect definition of that. But you know, here we are saying like it matters what we mean, and we never actually got there. So apologies about that. I think the only thing I want to add on top of those apologies is that I think there are facts and there are truth, and often we like kind of associate them as like, well, you know, those are the same thing. But I think things that are factual, like for example, maybe everyone is a math person, may not ring as true, you know, depending on the fact that it's the year 2026, and you know, just like a whole influence of things. And so I think like trying to extract the truth from that fact probably looks different, and it probably is much harder work and less preachable than, you know, telling people to believe this thing about themselves. But I think that is legitimately the important work. That is the show and prove element of what it means to be a math educator, and someone who is concerned with more people seeing themselves as able to do mathematics and a part of the community of people that does math. So I think there's alternative statements that I think could be helpful. Like, you are a part of the math community, whether you know it or not, you know, and like that the math community is this and it's this. It's not just this one thing that you think. I'll end with one anecdote. My statement is getting long, so cut this if this is too long here. But so the Jesus loves you stuff is personal to me, and I always feel kind of like gripey about it because like I go to church, and at the church I was a part of in Chicago, it was a multiracial church. It was like very intentional about being multiracial, but we were located in the South Side, historically black neighborhood, and I was at one point I was like in charge of outreach or like I'm sorry, hospitality, which meant like on Sunday when folks show up, it was like they would see me and other folks at the door, and we would like say hi to people. Now, church traditions are deep. There's like people do things a certain way. And so we did not do things kind of anyone's way. And that would strike people, especially, it's like a place where you choose to be really vulnerable. And I think telling people they belong, which is like ultimately what I would want, or like, hey, like we're here for you. Like, I'm glad you're here. We're here for you, was not what we said at the door. What we said at the door was like, hey, my name is Chris. Nice to meet you. Oh, where do you live? Blah, 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 this and that. And like just actually doing the thing, like doing the thing that we want to be happening, which I think in the case of math and math outreach is like just doing good math, like being there and listening and challenging ideas and pushing each other, building that community that can do that with each other. Like that's the stuff that actually gets people to believe any kind of message that's worth believing. And yeah, really this identity stuff, the identity statement stuff feels very back end to me of like, great, say it at the end, say it to like summarize a point, but lead with the doing. And I think there's a lot of room for us to be doing that in terms of math outreach, just at large.
Thank you both. And that concludes this debate. You've given us definitely a lot to think about.
And now it's up to our listeners to take a moment, ponder the arguments, share with friends, and consider what resonated with you. Be sure to follow us on Blue Sky at Debate Math Pod to share your thoughts on this debate.
And again, huge thanks to our guests. You were awesome and thoughtful and came in spicy, but also showed how adults can bring up spicy ideas without being too much or without being offensive.
And thanks to all those who are listening. We hope you enjoyed and learned from this.
All right, as a wrap up, Vanessa, where can listeners find you and follow you and all that fun stuff?
I am on all things at the Math Guru. Instagram is my favorite, and you can check out my website, maththerapy.com. Everything's on there too. Oh, and guys, sorry, most importantly, check out my band, Good Night Sunrise, our new single, Over You. Thank you.
And Chris, where can listeners find you?
You could find me in the ciphers getting down in San Diego, or you can find me on Instagram and the Blue Sky at Noski, but I just kind of come in waves. Sometimes I'm there and sometimes I'm not.
He's a viral sensation. He's being humble, everyone.
Check out my new single from my band, Good Night Sunrise.
Thank you both.
Thank you, guys.
Want to learn more about incorporating debate activities into your math classroom? Go to luzniak.com/podcast to sign up for my mailing list, learn more about debate math, and connect with resources you could use in your classroom today. That's luzniak.com/podcast.
Feel free to reach out to us with comments and questions on debatemath.com, or follow us on social media at debatemath or at debatemathpod on Twitter.
And don't forget that you can text us with your thoughts on any of the debates too.
You can also rate and review us on Apple Podcasts.
Or wherever you listen to this podcast. Your feedback is super important to us. Well, that's all from us.
Looking forward to debating with you next episode. Until next time, cheers.
Fine, ready? Best of three.
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Rock, paper, scissors. Hey, don't cut this out. Paper.
Yeah.
We're aligned.
We're jiving. Okay.
Rock, paper,
1, 2,
scissors.
3. Stop
This is
it.
crazy.
Stop
Don't
it.
cut
Okay,
this out.
Okay, no, hold on. Start again. I'm not looking. Start again. Okay, 3, 2. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh,
Okay.
fuck.
Okay.
Okay, we have one.
Unfortunately, she said 2 out of 3, so we have to keep doing this.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh, you win.
Okay, I will go first.
Okay, great.
Those of you
Wow, that
watching
must
on
have been
video, that was
So-
the rock, paper,
Don't
scissors for
cut
who's
that.
going first.
Don't cut that.
Okay, here we
Everyone
go.
has tuned out. Okay.
All right.
Guys.
Hold on.
Oh.
We'll now end by... She's so eager.
Feels like a horse, like bounding into the new year.
Okay.